Hey, Tim Sales here. In this video, I'm going to be going through traditional business and e-commerce business compared to network marketing. So let me first talk to you about what is a small business, and factually, I don't know. Because the U.S. Small Business Administration counts companies with as much as $35 million and 1,500 employees as a, and I put it in quotes, small business, depending upon the industry. Outside of government, companies with less than 7 million in sales and fewer than 500 employees are widely considered small businesses. And so just to kind of give you a framework of what I'm really talking about in this video is that it is taking you through a journey of various different business models and what they look like, so that it's of value to you when you're evaluating what kind of business you want to go into. All right, so that's really what I'm here to do. But the one thing that I want everybody to really get is that out of 28 million small business owners in America, 26 million have 0 employees. Okay, so you can now understand that we're working with 2 million as a total at a max, right? Because the rest of them don't have any employees. All right. So let's talk about the brick and mortar store. That's best understood. And so in this particular scenario, the guy owns a camera shop. He's got a lot of expertise, assuming he's got a lot of expertise about cameras. He has some inventory, lenses and cameras and knowledge books, filters, things like that. That's what he's got. All right. And so he's probably renting this space, and he also has to do marketing. He's got to get people into the store. All right. Locally. Here we have a fashion store. You have an employee. You have inventory. You have rent, typically in a mall, but also a boutique shop. And you have marketing. That's what you're going to be doing. Here is a restaurant, and you have employees, you have rent, and you have perishable inventory. All right, and so I emphasize perishable. In other words, those tomatoes, they go bad. You can't have them for months and months and months, okay? We have liability like a bacteria or E. coli or something like that. And then you have marketing. You have to get people to come into the store. Here we have, let's say, a car mechanic, and that person's going to have some expertise, but it's not necessarily a lot. I went through, I think, about 5 different vocational schools, and I learned body repair. I learned engine repair, engine rebuilding, tune-ups, things like that. So I went through a lot of that. There is going to be capital investment. Something's going to have to raise those vehicles up in order to get underneath them to take the transmission out, things like that. You have minimum employees. I worked at a Firestone store when I was a little boy, and we had about maybe 5 or 6 people there. I was a tire buster at the time, and then I moved up to brake repair. Okay, so you can kind of get the picture of what that is. It's capital investment, expertise, inventory, liability, and marketing. What you see constantly here is marketing, and a lot of people who go into business, they go into it because they love it. I certainly loved working on cars. And so never did I think I was going into a marketing business. But you have to always keep that one in mind, because you have to get people to somehow divert the direction they're going and come into your store. And most of the time, these stores, they're going to position themselves to where they get drive-by traffic and people know who they are. And hopefully they're there long enough for people to say, oh, I'm going to stop into there. I need a muffler change, so I'm going to do this, okay? So, and same with the restaurants, and same with the camera store and everything else. All right, so now we get into a little bit of a bigger situation where we've got a grocery store. We have capital investments, we have perishable inventory, and a lot of it. We have liability, we have employees, we have large rent, and we have marketing. Okay? So that gives you kind of this picture of the traditional model, if you will. All right, so now let's get into some of the drawbacks that caused me to no longer do that type of a business. All right, so this area right here, I live near Park City, Utah. You have a Whole Foods here, you have Staples, Walmart, you know, there's a whole bunch of factory stores over here. And so it's kind of a hub. And everybody goes into this one location, and so it's the kind of the go-to location to shop. Now, I'll show you what that looks like. It's right there. And so they're able to draw traffic from perhaps about 30 minutes max from these directions, but there's not a whole lot because these are all mountains and things like this. And so you have a finite number of people who will come to there. So in other words, down in Salt Lake, they're not going to drive all the way up here to go to these stores. Okay? So what you're working with, and it's just a picture I want you to have, you're working with a finite number of people who will drive that distance. They won't drive from Heber up here. They won't drive from Murray over to there. So you get the picture of that. So whenever you think about opening up a store, you can only serve a certain geographic area. All right. So then on this inventory, each one of those had inventory, and I want you to start thinking this way about it. All right, so let's say that, and this is just a random number I just pulled out. Product wholesale cost, in other words, your cost would be $100 for each unit. You sell it for $150, you have a $50 gross profit per unit. All right, so you order 5,000 units. In any manufacturing of anything, whether it be print work or anything else, there are increments. And if you purchase below 5,000 units, well, that's probably going to cost you $140 a piece. So everybody tries to get up into the higher units. You're really not getting any discounts until you get up to 20,000 units. So you got $500,000 of inventory here. Here's the big question, and this is what you have to get into. When do you break even on inventory? So 500,000 units divided by $150, which is this price, is 3,333. All right. At 3,333, you have broken even. Okay. You have 1,667 units remaining. So each one of those is going to be profit. Up until this point, you don't have any profit yet. But then we go into that next view of it. When do you need to reorder? All right. So we've got 1,600 units. So we've got to get in line at the manufacturer. We need a delivery date. Are we going to run out of these by this time? What is our cash flow? Can we afford another $500,000 expense at this stage when we haven't sold all of them yet? All right. And so, and then this is per SKU. So whenever I see people coming in the fashion industry, I always think, man, so you're not just ordering, you got to order small, medium, large. You got to get it in the red version, the white version, the gray version. You know what I mean? In other words, like that's a lot of SKUs that begin to add up. And so if you don't know what a SKU is, it's the stock keeping unit. So it's just a number, an identity tag to maintain inventory. So MN might be man, RD might be red, TS might be t-shirt, LG is a large. Okay, so I didn't want you to get confused by what that is. So I used to sell this product called Brilliant Compensation, and it was first a VHS and then it was a DVD. And I remember that I was trying to do this modeling. I was trying to figure out how this works. And I just finally couldn't guess how many people would order. It's like, how would I ever know that until I get out there and do it? So I got a quantity of them and I began to sell them. And it wasn't long before I did that a few times where I would bet bigger and bigger. I would get 20,000 units. I'd get 50,000 units ordered. Ended up selling 44 million of these things. And I finally figured it out. I would have to sell every single one and not buy any more in order to reap all of the profit. Okay, but never is that time. So you always got inventory sitting back there. When sales slow down, at least it wasn't a product that's going to deteriorate or anything. And so so I could keep it in inventory. But just always think that way when you've got inventory. You may think that you have $50 in gross profit. However, if you have inventory sitting in a warehouse, you don't have 50%. Okay, in other words, you got to sell it and sell it all, because if you've still got a bunch in the warehouse, you have yet to reach the full profit, the gross profit. Okay. Let's move over into e-commerce. And so basically what happens here is that you get some benefits from e-commerce. You get to cut out the brick and mortar expense. So in other words, the architecture, the building itself. Maybe, because you might not want people coming to your home, like if you have a couple of employees. And then you have opened up the geographic location. And I'm going to talk more about that geographic location again in just a minute. You can open for 24 hours now. So typically a shop might be open from 9 to 5 or something, or 9 to 9 or something, but it closes, and so you open up 24 hours. That's great. And less employees. Okay. So and one of the things that I also found when I had a traditional business was that employees sometimes don't want to come to work. They want to go on a vacation. They want to take Friday off and do something. They don't feel good. Their child needs to go to see the doctor. They want to go to the dentist. All these different things happen. And so I ended up filling in during that time frame, right? And so if two people want it off at the same time, or three or more, something like that. So you've always got that shuffling going on, right? So less employees, that becomes valuable. All right, so now all of these items are the things that you now are going to have to do, that you didn't have to do necessarily here. And I'm also incorporating this as in you could have a brick and mortar business and then just add an e-commerce component. So now you've got R&D and product design. That's if you have a different product that you're selling. You have website design, maintenance, security, database, customer records. Okay, so this is a whole nother item and a whole nother can of worms, to tell you the truth. Advertisements and traffic. Traffic would be directing traffic, let's say from Facebook to your ad, Google to your ad, blogs to your ad, or whatever it is. You have inventory, merchant account. You probably would have it if you already did, but if you're just starting an e-commerce store, that merchant account is an issue. Shipping and delivery, returns, and fraud. Yes, there's frauds. There are people who will order and then return it. All right. So now this geographic location, and then when you put it here, now that you've got the store all around the world that people can order from, you're going to have the translation. And it's quite different from network marketing. So I'm going to emphasize that in just a second. And that was just the best stock photo I could come up with of what it looks like. Okay. And so in other words, all these Post-it notes, who wants what special things they wanted, leave it at the door on the second step, things like that people tend to write and request. All right. So now let's look over here, and this would be compared to network marketing. So all of these components, and then over here, we cut out all of this except for advertising and traffic. Okay, so we're going to need to do that. But we don't have to do all of that unless you wanted to. Okay, so there's some people, myself included, I say, you know what, I want to do more. I want to play this game at the very top that I can. And so once I made enough money through building a network marketing business, I then hired people to do this. And I will tell you, yeah, all right. So here's what I see most often in e-commerce in the product selection here. What they do is that they go out and either get an already existing product and just white label it. And what that means is that you rip off, I don't know, the Walmart brand, and you put on your brand name off the label, okay? And okay, good. If that's the model that you want, great. The other option is you can go and get a custom made product. And so then you're kind of just, like adding ingredients, not even knowing if the formula is going to work better or worse. Might be contradictions within those ingredients and things like that, whether it be skincare or hair care or nutrition or any of those kinds of things. They just go there and they don't really have any expertise in it. They don't have a research and development department that spends their time and their effort. Where I've seen in network marketing, 16 people work just, endlessly every year, going through all of the research and testing formulas and testing different found substances from Earth, in other words, like plant life and things like that, and combining these things and seeing what effects they have. A lot of research papers are already doing that. Ethnobotanists are doing that. And so people, will spend a lot of time on that, seeing, what affects this, how does that work with this body part, things like that. So that's what I see most often in the e-commerce world is white labeling or just mismatch. And then, and nobody has that custody line. And what I mean by that is that if you need vitamin C, exactly where did that originate from, and what's the custody line that it went all the way through, and what is it tested for at the end? And that would be same for aloe vera or any other kind of thing. Is that few companies really worry about that and are concerned about that and concerned about contamination and such. Okay. And then now your e-commerce website has a really, really high demand. And that demand is that it must convert. Okay, so that is the primary component that you're looking for when your website is created. And then the security measures and all of those things that go into it. Just a little bit of a story here to kind of tell you how naive Tim can be. When I went to sell that product, Brilliant Compensation, I bought a copy of Front Page 1997. And that was the year that it was. And so I sat down with a book, and it's a really, really thick book. It would have been a book very similar to that size, okay? And I had it opened up and sitting in my lap, and I built a web page. And it was awesome. It took me about 2 weeks in order to get my name to actually come up on the page. I would have to refresh it and things like that. And so I ended up building the page, and I figured out how to upload the image of the video and, tell them what it was about. And I didn't really know sales copy. You have to know sales copy to get conversion. And so I was just telling people what it was about. And so then I put it up, and I waited. I didn't get an email order that came in that notified me. And I was like, man, what's the matter here? And so I go in and I tested it. I ran my order through, and I was like, man, I didn't get an email. And so I finally broke down and I hired somebody to come in and test. And I said, I can't find out where my order. And he says, well, is it getting into the database? I said, the what? And he goes, the database. What's the database? And he goes, well, that's where the orders have got to flow into. In other words, there's so much that needs to be known and maintained. And the moment that you hire a team to do this, they have lassoed you. And it's called the pain of disconnect, because you don't know, you can't just go in there and rip it out with a cord swinging, right? Like they got you. All right. And it's the pain of disconnect, and you don't know how to get away from it at that stage, because then it's, like you got all this money invested into it and it's not working right, and you can't reach the person when you need them the most. You've got an ad running, but the site is down. And so it's going to a dead page. Okay. So you're paying for every one of those clicks and they're going nowhere. All right. These are the problems that you will have in e-commerce, I assure you. And then merchant account is, so I had 40,000 orders in like the third month or something like that. And my credit card company shut down my account, the merchant account company. And I called them quite hostile and saying, what's going on? And they said, well, there's too many orders coming through. And I said, but that's a good thing. And they're like, well, we don't know if this is fraud. Well, what are you going to do? I mean, you shut down the account now. And he says, well, we've frozen your account because we're going to keep the money until we know it's not fraud. And I said, well, how do you know it's not fraud? And they said, we're going to wait 3 months. And I'm like, 3 months? I'll be out of business by then. What in the world are you talking about? So nobody thinks about these things. And I always see these ads that come through, and they target me on YouTube and things like that. And some guy will do this thing where he's like, you see that right there? That's how much money I made last month, right? I can guarantee you that guy has years of experience. All right. And he's done what I've done in order to get there. But he's going to sell you a $37 product, and then a $250 product, and then a $2,000 product, and then a $5,000 product, and then a $30,000 inner circle before you're going to find out how he made that. Okay. And he's going to end up giving you a business in a box. That's what he's going to end up giving you. He's going to have you selling his thing. All right. So that's the way those things work. And I think there's an easier way. You have research and development to do that. Okay. So let me jump over here now. Open geographic locations. All right. And so on the ground, I'm going to show you a couple of things here, and then I'm going to show that part of it. So in R&D inside of the network marketing industry, it is a fierce competition. We are not in competition with anybody else. Okay, so when you look at the Walmart, you look at the Whole Foods, you look at the various different places that you can shop for supplements, Vitamin Shop or any of those, GNC, we're not in competition with them because they're not even close. The quality standards, the result standards are so ferocious and fierce in the competition world, we're only competing within ourselves in the network marketing space. Same for skincare, same for hair care. Our website designs, I cannot tell you that they convert, all right? I've not seen a lot of them convert. What they are for me, they're conversation starters, or where you can go place your order. So then it's just simply a link that I send the person through text, through email, through social media, or whatever it is. I'm just sending them a link to go buy. So it's not as much based on it. But all of this maintenance and security and database and customer records and all of that stuff, the company handles. So I'm not having to handle any of that stuff. Okay, so here is this teammates versus customers. So an e-commerce site is going to say that, we can do this all over the world. We got customers from all over the world, or whatever it is. And it is very different. Number one is just to kind of relay a story to you. So right here is Park City, and a buddy of mine named Steve, he sponsored a guy down in Florida. And then he also had me come over to his house. He said, hey man, I met this guy and I want you to meet him. He's from Portugal. He's going to be leaving tomorrow. And so could you come and meet him? So I went over and I talked to him. And then maybe he joined the business. And then after a few months or so, I flew over there and did a meeting in Portugal. All right. one of his people sponsored somebody in the UK. And one of his people sponsored someone in France and in Italy. And I make about, last week it was 10 grand a week. All right. And it was, maybe 11 the week before. And so it's right around that amount. Somehow I want you to extract that and really understand that. It's very different to have boots on the ground speaking French, speaking Portuguese, speaking Italiano. Okay? You got to understand the difference. It is not a Google translated web page where somebody's trying to order and you're sending them an American product that is in English and they're trying to figure out how much to take or what to do, what the instructions are like. It's not the same thing. All right. So when you've got boots on the ground over there, that's a military expression. But when you get people in that area who are building their own business for themselves, then it's just a different scenario. Then it just continues to grow, and it went on over to Romania. It went over to all over the place. Okay. So that's the way this works. And it's just so much better than a typical e-commerce situation. All right, so I showed this in another slide. These are the benefits from my perspective and in my sequence. It may be different for you, but number one is exponential residual, okay? So it's exponential plus residual. That's a big, big factor. We're not talking about selling, let's say that we were selling a telephone, and we're selling a service with the telephone. So the service would be a residual income. This would be, sometimes it just goes along for the ride. But I'm talking about where you get an exponential growth, just like the story I just told you. I met with two people, right, that then ended up growing and a lot, thousands and thousands of people. And it tends to be residual because the product quality. They get on them. Some people continue to build the business. Some people don't, but they don't want to get rid of the products because they like them, okay? Number two is a team effort. This is showing you team effort, all right? So I went over there. I went to Florida. I went into Tennessee, and I went to various different states for this gentleman. I haven't been to France. I've been to Italy. Okay, so that's what I mean by a team effort. So I go in and I help and assist with the training. Reps, not employees. Okay, so if these people don't show up for work, okay. When they do work, they're working for themselves. They got the same compensation plan that I do. All right, I'm not paying to see if they're going to work or not. Built from anywhere or build from anywhere, low financial entry and risk. Okay, so I showed you all of these different businesses, and every one of them, you've got to take out a lease in a building. Okay, so how long is that lease? 6 months, a year? All right, so now you're kind of strapped onto that, and then you buy inventory. All right, so it's low financial entry and risk. You own your customers, 1099 tax system, that's really comparing to a job. Geographic diversification, talked a lot about that. Work with people that you want to work with. Money plus time freedom. So money freedom and time freedom. A lot of people make money, but they're strapped to it. I was just talking to my videographer before I came in here, and there's a guy that's got a t-shirt and a hat business, and he's doing very well, but he can't leave. Okay, he can't even go to get a pizza. Okay, easier transition. Part-time and then full-time, and then the marketing is dynamic. What that means is that if you are in retail, you are dependent upon people coming into your store. Okay, so you can go out and hand out flyers. You can, like maybe do postcards or do a mailing in your area or some things like that. But literally in network marketing, any kind of marketing known we can do. And then availability of training. And that would be where you've got people who know it in a network marketing company. They know how to build. And so you can get advice from those people. All right. So again, reorder that list as you see it. Thank you for watching. Please comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. Have you ever had your own business in a traditional business? How did it work? What were the benefits? What were the downsides to it? Okay, so comment, thumbs up if you like it. Thanks for watching.